Good morning, evening, Ron.
Good, good morning, evening, Peter. Again, this is it's our second official take. Although we tried in the middle, we've been having a few technical difficulties. So we did record a few 5 minutes maybe already, but we're starting over.
Yep.
So Peter is in the capital district of Australia, in Canberra. Is that how you pronounce it? Canberra? Is it
We're Canberra. Canberra.
Canberra? See, I always
Canberra,
said
yeah.
Canberra,
Yes,
like
as
Yogi Berra, you know.
Yogi Berra. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm about if my arm was a bit stronger, I could actually throw a rock at Parliament House and hit it. So if you drive a block down from my street, then you'll actually see a big pile of rocks because I'm still trying to get them. But yeah, I'm right in the thick of it here, right in very close to the parliamentary triangle where all the big bras are. Um, Canberra's a lovely city, though. It's very different from your huge cosmopolitan places. Canberra has a suburb and then a suburb worth of bush and then another suburb. So you can always sort of get to a little bit of nature and a little bit of relative peace and quiet within 4 or 5 minutes from where you are, which is kind of nice. You can't do that in every major city in the world.
I know you record a lot of your videos actually outdoors, if not all of them. And in fact, it's the first time I can remember seeing inside of your home. Although, have you done any videos that weren't outside?
Only in the car, basically. I still like to
Okay,
go out
okay,
for a
yeah,
walk in nature. The good old little walk in nature and connecting to the earth is just the best way of clearing the mind and flushing out negativity and electromagnetic pollution and all that sort of stuff. So I do try and get the shoes and socks off and actually touch the Mother Earth with the feet and get the grounding that comes through that. And it's just wonderful for clearing that clutter of thought. There's this excess thought that's going on, and I just feel that sinking into the earth and feel something else coming up, which is, the connection to the mother, the connection to our essential oneness as a humanity. And so for me, nature is really, really important. I've learned a lot from reading Gospels and Vedas and spiritual teachers and philosophers and psychologists, and but most what I've really, really learned for myself has been from my connection with nature, from just looking at a tree for long enough until you actually can't distinguish the difference between you and the tree anymore. And when you get to that point, something in you shifts, and it's a fundamental shift, and it's a shift into the disbelief in the little psychological entity that we call the me. And when you stop believing in the me and start focusing more on the oneness, then you become receptive to something larger than your own little psychological self. And when that little psychological self starts to break down, it doesn't actually vanish. I'm not one of those Advaita people who say, "Oh, there's no one here." I'm here. I'm talking to you. You're a person. I'm a person. But we're individuals. But individuals don't have to be screwed up little psychological me's. They can be very connected. Individuals are really a conduit. A conduit for spirit, a conduit for God. A conduit for oneness. So you can be very, very much an individual, and you can be very, very much aware of your connection to all and everything at the same time.
I agree. I don't get out in nature much, but I have nature right in the middle of my house. I have a 20 by 20-foot atrium in the middle of my house that's filled with all sorts of vegetation. It has a fireplace. I have water in there. I have all the elements right there. And while the patio itself is concrete, the deck that I sit on is actually a wooden deck over dirt. It's not. There's no concrete in between. It's actually the earth there, and I actually get seedlings growing up between the slats and the wooden deck that
Yeah.
grow that force their way up through the little teeny cracks. These little ferns and other plants just grow up in there, and then I have to pull them out, of course. But uh, I get nature right in the middle of my home,
That's fantastic. Yeah.
which is an advantage most people don't have. Which when I when the realtor was showing me houses back in 2005, she had I think 8 houses or something that were possibilities that I had selected from a list that she had given me, and this was the first one she brought me to, and I never looked at any other house. I said, "This is the one that I want."
Yeah, that did
But
it straight
anyway,
away.
we've
It's good when you can drop into something like that and feel comfortable straight away. You don't have to go through a whole rigmarole of choices and weighing things up. And I think that's what being an individual that's driven by spirit is like. You just have that direct connection and that spontaneous decision. That's not even a decision. It just is. You just go, yep, that's right.
well, of course, the atrium when I saw it had no plants. I just saw the potential of what I could do there to create my own outdoor environment in the middle of my house, which is what I've
Yeah,
done.
that's great. Yeah, we
But
just
anyway,
started a.
yeah,
Sorry.
let's go back to where we were in the earlier take when we were talking about what you call it, New Age what?
New Age syndrome. Yeah,
The
New
New
Age
Age
syndrome,
the syndrome.
and that's maybe a bit rough, and that's maybe a bit judgmental. But let's play with it. Let's play with the concept.
Let's face it. Even the people that claim to be non-judgmental are judgmental. That's the nature of being human. We assess and evaluate, and we do that all the time, every day, and we may lie to ourselves.
I'll take that one, Ron. It works for me at the moment. But yeah, New Age syndrome. New Age syndrome is something that we all suffer from, I think, in our spiritual journey in some way, shape or form, or even without a spiritual journey. We just don't want to see the darkness inside of us, and we feel inadequate to heal the darkness inside of us, and so we run away from ourselves. And a lot of people that in the New Age movement say, well, you got to be yourself, you got to be love and light, and if you put them in a situation where they were really self and they saw the darkness within, then they would run back out. They say they want to be self and they say they want to be authentic, but the moment they would be in that position, they'd run back out, because the reason that we're not ourselves and we're not authentic is because we're afraid of that darkness within. That's what we ran away from. That's our connection into the larger world mind that we have run away from. And that's why there's this basic condition of humanity underlying most what we call negative emotions is this feeling of I'm not good enough, because something happened and there was a schism, some darkness came into our existence, and we ran away from this oneness. We ran away, we betrayed our beloved. And that, I think, is the basic condition in humanity. That's why we have abandoned our larger consciousness and ended up in a tiny little fragmented corner of consciousness that we call this little psychological me. And if you only want to see love and light, then what you leave in the darkness is going to fester, and it's going to grow, and it's going to grow into a horrible monster. And if you don't deal with it internally, then energy has to come back to its source, so it will come at you externally. And that's what we're seeing with the Cabal and the whole New World Order thing at the moment all around us. And so we have to deal with the internals and we have to deal with the externals as well. But, my favorite New Age analogy is, you're walking through a forest and there's a railway line going through it, and you think, is that a person I see sitting there in a lotus position on the railway in the distance? So I'll walk up and take a look, and heck yeah, it is a person. There's a train coming in the distance. Oh, excuse me. Would you mind leaving me alone? I do love you, love and light, but I'm meditating. Excuse me. Could you leave me alone, please? I'm meditating. Sorry, but do you know you're on a railway line? Yes, okay. I'm on a railway line. I'm meditating, love and light. Now, could you please move on? Do you realize that there's a train coming? Look, I told you. I love you, but move on. There goes the cool. And that's what I feel that's like. Just looking at the light and just sitting there, enveloping in love and light, thinking that's a system by which you can progress over time. doesn't do the job, because it just doesn't address the shadow. And what needs to be done now, immediately, not tomorrow, to sort of arrive somewhere at a distant point in time, but what needs to be done right now and every moment is you need to be connected to what you're really feeling and really dealing with it, not running away from it. And that's what so many people do. They run away from what they feel. I've come to realize that when it comes to anger, for instance, anger is a covering emotion for inadequacy. Somebody trying to call in.
Yes.
And so when you feel inadequate to deal with a certain situation and somebody touches that inadequacy in you, you become angry. And then you turn it into a story about how you're angry and how that other person wrongs you. And that's the little psychological me story. But what's underneath that is this real feeling of I'm not good enough, I'm not adequate to the task, I can't solve what's really going on. And so we run what I call false flag emotions. And that's not to say that anger doesn't exist anymore. For me, it does, but it's now a positive emotion for me because it alerts me that there is a situation at hand that I now have to apply love to. And that's what emotions do. If we, in our little fragmented mind, don't catch the situation as it is, then there's a subconscious signal that turns it into an emotion, which is more like a slowed down, oozing kind of a thought. And that then allows us to be alerted to the fact that there is something that needs to be resolved. So anger becomes not the undertone of your life anymore. Joy becomes the undertone of your life when you start to heal internally, that's for sure. And anger becomes something that just says, hey, hang on a minute, you need to look over there and you need to apply some love to that situation. And so anger now is more my best friend than it is my worst enemy. And
as you're talking, Peter, sorry to interrupt you, but what was coming to mind, and I looked it up so I would get it right, is a Carl Jung quote where he says, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious.
Yes. Exactly.
And that's something that humanity is having a lot of trouble getting. The treasure is in the darkness. That's where we left our power. And we feel not good enough and disempowered because we refuse to go where we left it. And we have to go back and redeem that part of ourselves, or the shadow part of ourselves, in order to become whole. And it's so hard for some people to get that in their mind and their hearts.
Yes, it is. And we have to go to me, I always liken everything to the breath, right? Like, to me, breathing in is going from the individual up to God, and when I'm breathing out is God breathing through me, And I think that the very first thing we need to do is learn that breathing in, is learn that dissolving into that nothingness, into that nameless nothingness that is God. I don't see a God as a person or as a center. We see our little me as a psychological center, and if you were to stand in the middle of the desert and you would move yourself, your periphery would move with you. So there's a center, there's a psychological center, and that brings with it a limitation. So if you could just try and imagine that you're in that desert but there's no me, it's centerless, then there is no limitation, there is no periphery, and that's what I see God as. And to me, that breathing in is that going into that, and the answer that comes out of that is a beautiful flow of inspiration. Inspirare, to breathe into, inspiration that comes from the depths of being, and to bring that into expression is pretty much, I think, what our function in life is, to work with that positively and to interact with that in a very positive way. So all these new age techniques of visualization and all that sort of thing, they're actually valid, but they're not valid if you're coming out of a position where you're running away from the shadow. That any and every technique in spirituality is valid if it comes from the inspiration And then, so emotion's good if the inspiration flows through me and that causes me to express a certain type of emotion, then that is a divine act, you see. But if I'm running away from myself and I'm pretending to be happy and I'm pretending to only see love and light and I'm visualizing this and I'm visualizing that, I'm not doing it from the inspiration breath. I'm doing it breathlessly. There is no life in it. You know, it's a
That's
pretend.
an excellent point. And one of the I've often said people cannot rise above their concept of God or
Yes.
the supreme. And for so many people, we've been trained that there are basically two gods. There's a light God and a dark God, and they're at war with each other.
Yeah.
And if that's our concept of God, no wonder we've created the world that we live in. No
Yes.
wonder that we experience all of the ups and downs and highs and lows of our world because we then are at war within ourselves.
Yes.
Those two gods
Yes.
are at war within us. And
Yes. And
I mean,
we've created them.
part of overcoming my theology is to get rid of that idea that there's a devil that's more powerful than the good God, and he's in charge right now, and we better be on the alert and always look out because he's hiding behind every bush trying to get us. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. The
instead
universe is out
of
to get you.
recognizing that it's one God manifest with the two sides of the same God, that one of them appears dark and one of them appears light, but they're both the same being. That's a
It
really hard
is.
concept for a lot.
Yeah.
In our monotheistic religions, we say we're monotheists, but we have indeed created two gods.
Well, as long as we're seeing God as a center, so I'm a psychological center and out there is a center somewhere, and then I have to be all these steps and these processes in time to get there. And that's exactly the opposite of what reality is. Reality is it takes no time to get here. You can do it right now because all you have to be is what you are. Because the universe did not make a mistake when it created you. God doesn't make mistakes, okay? And nothing's wrong. The universe made you just perfect. Everybody's just perfect. And if we would just cut out the mental chit-chat bullshit, then we basically understand that. The moment we stop believing the gravity of this inner chit-chat going on in the head is the moment we really stop believing it, then we become our own authentic self. We see what we need to heal because all this chatter in the mind is stopping us from finding what we really need to heal inside. That's why I always say that most of us run false flag emotions because the emotion is about a story about me when there's really something much deeper underneath. It's our inner connection with God calling us to attention, saying, can you please resolve this? We want wholeness. The universe wants wholeness, It wants balance. It's a self-balancing mechanism, and it will keep knocking at your door until you listen. And it's so simple. The simplicity is that you stop trying to fix stuff within yourself and actually go within, and then you see what really happens, and then that falls away. And and when you get the willingness to do this, when you pluck up the courage to look that darkness in the eye, then God is like the cosmos, the universe, whatever you want to call it, is like, when you're a kid and you're saving up for that bike and you put $1 in the jar and your parents, from your paper route or whatever, and your parents match that dollar for dollar. Once you start putting that intention out to the universe that you want to drop this conditioning, you want to drop this false me, you're willing to go through that little pain to find your authentic self again, then the universe just responds with grace, and it gives you more than that. It gives so much more than that dollar for dollar. And yes, when that starts to happen, there is joy. But to get back to your video, the clown face, the joy is after a certain point, the joy is there, but the joy is a person unto itself, is a persona unto itself, and joy can get pissed, and joy can get angry, and joy can get upset, and joy can cry, and joy can get depressed. And I still have moments where, the planets are aligned wrong, and a few things in my personal life go wrong, and everything is just kind of against me again for a minute, and there's still this joy. And I've had times where I went, why doesn't this joy just go away, and it won't go away. That's the thing. And the moment you say that, you look at it and you think, what am I choosing here? What I'm feeling now with this joy, I'll choose the joy, and it just breaks. The negativity flowers, and you see that it was just a passing cloud in the clear blue sky, and then there's the clear blue sky again. But that abundant joy that passeth understanding, it passeth understanding because it's not a joy that is made of thought. It's a joy that is made of, and it can include thought, but it's a joy that is made of your wholeness of being. And for me, the most beautiful and joyous times are when I simply sit and watch a bird fly, and there's no inner chit chat going on in the head. And when you've got that inner calm and peace, and that joy is just bubbling up, and all of a sudden a bird flies by, it's not just a bird flying by, it's not an image that's stored in your memory, but it's a real living event, and you realize that the whole universe just conspired to make this bird fly past you. And there is a gratitude in that, and an appreciation, and this oneness of being separate from this animal, seeing it flying, but feeling one with it at the same time, and to have this sensitivity to this beauty that this planet is. Because once you have seen a tree without an image of tree and without a label of tree, wow, there isn't anything more beautiful than nature itself, and it's only because we just kind of do all these quick fixes and label stuff, and that's the whole sort of theme of our existence, really, is we are energy, and we experience energy, and we label it as something, and that labeling creates our experience of reality and our experience of existence. And so when we stop labeling, we see what really is, and what really is just so damn beautiful. And that's why I make these videos, and that's why I'm talking to you now, is I want everybody to experience that. I don't want to, how can I be enlightened if not everybody else is? There is no enlightenment until we all, as one, have healed all the shadow in the world, and each and every one of us is enlightened. Then there is enlightenment.
Right. And I can't be free as long as there are people still in bondage.
Exactly.
I can't be a total creator as long as there are still people playing victim and victimizer roles.
Yep.
That has to end, not just within me. It has to end within me. That's true. But it has to manifest in the world around me. And as long as I'm here in the flesh, my job is to work towards that. And that's why I get frustrated sometimes, because things aren't proceeding as quickly as I'd like, because we're so close. We're so close to getting there, and the mass awakening, if you will.
Yeah.
But it's for all of us. There's so many people, even in their theology, that see, well, there's just going to be a few people that get that ascend. A few people are going to be enlightened and ascend. No, that's not where we're on this game thing for the one people to wake up.
Yep, that's it. That's the name of the game, and for sure. And I've got to say too, your frustration that you've shown in your videos is actually something that really got me thinking. It was actually very valuable to me in my experience on my journey, because I was never a person who believed in governments and who believed in materialism. From the age of, as far as I can remember back, I was the sort of kid who would sit there for hours staring at a clock, thinking about, is time pliable? What happens between the two clicks of the I could sit for 6 or 8 hours, and it just seemed like there was 5 minutes gone by. And I've always been a spiritual seeker, and of course, in the New Age sense, running away from myself, trying to think that I had to become someone or follow a teaching or find a guru, or, I did so many different things. It wasn't funny. And that all sort of fell away. I always resisted society's need for status and money and stuff like that. And then I decided, 10 years ago that I'd been with Falun Gong for a while, and that sort of fell apart on me too. And I decided that I was going to be a materialistic success now, because that's obviously the only thing I haven't tried in life. So I'll give that a go. And I ran a business. I dropped Falun Gong, and I ran a business quite successfully, a computer business. And then it just started. I was doing. I'm writing a musical, recording songs for a musical about Madame Blavatsky with a dear friend of mine. And he got turned on by one of his friends to David Icke and the whole conspiracy theory thing. And in the beginning, I just sort of kind of thought, well, there's another one with shares in the tinfoil hat factory. But some of the things he said started to really sort of grab my interest. And so I started looking into it. And once I go down a rabbit hole, I want to see how far it goes. I don't care how dark it gets. I want to get down to the bottom of it. And then this enormous synchronicity started happening, that whatever I was looking into, what the Cabal or the NWA were doing, and whatever I thought that the case was, then I'd find a video or a comment or two strangers walk past you and you catch a fragment of what they were saying, and they just filled a gap in your thoughts to tell you something, to make you realize something. It was enormous synchronicity happening. And so I thought, well, maybe that's what it's all about. I've always been seeking spiritually, and materialistic success didn't really do anything for it. Maybe this is what it's about. Maybe it's about fighting the Cabal, finding out what they're doing, stopping their snide little plan. And then, so I was thinking along those lines, and information was coming at me at rates. It was just incredible, every day it was just an onslaught of more and more information and more synchronicity. And then I started to notice that some things were really, really getting to me that were going on, and other things, however heinous they were, weren't really getting to me that much. And I thought, why? And then I started to realize that all the things that I saw the New World Order doing were actually processes that were going on within myself. False flag operations were going on within myself. And I started to realize, and then I started going back the other way. Then I started going, well, okay, that's what Jung says too. There's the subconscious suppressed comes out in the world, comes back at you. Your energy comes back at you. So it's all inside yourself. So I went and I started working on that premise. I started working on, okay, well, I've seen the external stuff, but I realize now that the world is my mirror and it's all within myself. And so I went down that rabbit hole. Instead of investigating the New World Order, I started investigating myself. And that is what led me to have these experiences of healing and oneness and nothingness. And then I thought, well, that's it then. Great, excellent. And then I started to realize that, and then the synchronicity with your videos and stuff started to happen. And this is where your frustration actually was something that actually put a crack in my skull and said, hang on a minute, no, there is an inner and an outer. And okay, so maybe in some ways I'm out of that, what's happening in the outer, but it's still happening to everyone else. So what do? Do I just selfishly sit here with the sheepish grin on my face, looking at the butterfly sucking the nectar out of the flower, or do I actually become involved in this? Okay, I know who I am. I see that it's a game. I'm happy and I'm peaceful, but they're not. So do I become involved in this? And if you're a loving person, then the simple answer for me is yes, I do. I become so much more involved in it because I don't feel that touched by the problem anymore. Therefore, I have the calmness and the overview to help find a genuine solution, not the new age runaway into the love and light solution, but the reality of be yourself and heal the shadow solution. And that shadow outside of us needs to be healed. And I did a video earlier on today about the origins of evil, and so I don't want to go into all that detail here. People can dig that out.
Because I try to keep it under 30 minutes when I do the interviews. I don't want
crikey,
to go on and on. So we're getting.
You're miserably failing.
Well, I think we have 1 minute left, and it's 30 minutes. So, so anyway, we will do more videos if you're willing.
Absolutely.
And we covered a lot of ground today. I mean, I'm really appreciative of what you've shared, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to introduce you to those of my friends that haven't yet met you. And as I said, we will be talking further. So for today, I'm going to just wrap it up because it's right around the 29 to 30 minute mark at this point, I think. And so, Peter, thank you very much. Do you have anything you want
Thank
to
you
say
very
just
much, Ron.
very briefly in closing?
Hey, love you all.
Okay, well, thank you and namaste. And this will
Namaste.
go up as tomorrow's video for the 18th of May 2013.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ron.
Thank you, Peter. Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.